Hello everyone, I'm the first author named CHANG. Major is School of Business. And the corresponding author is Hyung professor. Today, the topic of this research is the influence of host country policy risk and cross-national distance on overseas enterprise performance. Actually, with the development of internationalization, there are more and more studies related to this topic, but they are almost limited to the relationship between a single variable. So the reason why I choose this topic is because I want to attempt to combine policy risk and cross-national distance, these two variables, to further study the influence on overseas enterprise performance. Now let's move to the first part. This slide, I made definition of variables. First, I divided policy risks into instability of policy system and regime conflict. The cross-national distance into cultural distance and institutional distance. Instability of policy system in this paper is defined as the changing government policies brought uncertainty and unpredictability to the investment and management of overseas companies. Regime conflict is defined as the political beliefs of those in power that influencing economic and other aspects of life. Then cultural distance is defined as the extent to which norms of behavior and values differ between one country and another. Institutional distance is defined as the difference between two countries in rules, norms, and cognition of institutions. Therefore, around these four independent variables, we can summarize these four main purposes in this paper. First, exploring the relationship between policy risk factors and overseas enterprise performance. Second, exploring the relationship between cross-national distance factors and overseas enterprise performance. Then it confirming whether good ESG performance has a moderating impact on overseas enterprise. Last, the purpose is sorting out the plan that can reduce the risk and improve the performance of overseas enterprise. So this paper, according to previous research and definition 0, we can get 4 hypotheses here. First, about instability of policy system. Main causes of policy instability are unfair distribution, difficult employment, imperfect social security system, official corruption, and so on. So instability of policy system is negatively correlated with the performance of overseas enterprises. Second, about regime conflict. The unexpected change of regime will change the rules of the game of business management. So the regime conflict is also negatively correlated with the performance of overseas enterprises. Third, cultural distance. Cultural distance increases the difficulty of knowledge exchange between enterprises. So cultural distance hypothesis around the cultural distance is also negatively correlated with the performance of overseas enterprises. Last, about institutional distance. The increases of formal institutional distance will lead to the level of the speed of strategic adjustment of overseas enterprises, which will have a negative impact on the performance of overseas enterprises. So, hypothesis 4, the institutional distance is also negatively correlated. To sum up, considered with ESG, the negative effect of these 4 independent variables are all weakened by ESG performance. Therefore, we got this research model. Next, this slide is about data and sample. The data interval of the enterprises sample is selected from 2016 to 2021 for a total of 6 years. The number of overseas enterprises obtained from the data was 2,397. The data are main obtained for these 4 websites. In order to have a better understand to this website, behind of here also have take some notes. Then this table is the definition of related variables. Next slide. Here I carried out descriptive statistic analysis in order to clarify the correlation between each variable and the dependent variables. Here conduct a correlation that will affect the regression results to test whether there is a strong correlation that will affect the regression results. So through this table, the result shows instability of politics system, regime conflict, and institutional distance are high correlated, where the correlation between other variables is correlately small. So there is no molecular linearity between the variables selected in this paper. And that means regression analysis can be conducted. So table 4 is table 5, and table 5 is through IND. ROE did the regression analysis. And then consider with ESG performance for moderating effect analysis. It did the regression analysis again, and the result comes out at this two table. It shows that these four independent variables with ESG coefficients are all significant at 5% level, means that ESG can reduce negative effects and play a moderating role to a certain extent. Last, here we got 5 summarized. First, the higher the risk of instability of the political system, the higher the possibility of economic losses brought by changes in policies and regulations, which will lead to the reduction of corporate performance or failure to reach targets, thus bring losses to enterprises. Second, the higher the risk of regime conflict, the greater the side effects of regime change and policy change will be when the enterprises is operating in the country. Third, the greater cultural distance makes it more difficult for overseas enterprises to integrate resources and technologies after they enter the host country's market. Then we also can get the greater the institutional distance, the greater the external transaction costs and internal operation and management costs of overseas operations, and the greater the difficulties of overseas operations, thus bring a negative impact on overseas performance. Last, enterprises with good ESG performance can reduce the negative impact on overseas enterprises' performance. And here the main contribution of this study we can summarize into 2 points. Firstly, this paper is no longer a one-way study. As we said at the beginning, it combines policy risk and cross-national distance. And also, I divided them into 4 small independent variables. So it further enriching the relationship between policy risk and cross-national distance on the overseas enterprises' performance. Of course, based on the original studies. And secondly, this paper explores the moderating effect of ESG as a moderating variable. So it provides a new theoretical basis. Even though there are still some limitations and issues need further discussing, such as there are many types of risks in cross-national distance, and they may also have a non-linear change in the overseas enterprise performance. So future research can observe the relationship for a long time. And secondly, this paper only examines the moderating conditions, ESG, which is a single to a center extent. So future research can consider more moderating conditions. Yeah, that's all about my today's presentation. Thanks for your listening.